Welcome back to the Gstaad Guy podcast, or welcome for the first time.
Nice to see you again.
Great to see you. It's great to have you here.
Always a pleasure to see you.
Me too. I was very excited for this conversation. Every time I see you, I always get excited by all the stories you tell me about your incredible career, personal life, and how you balance all that with your sports and self-care.
You're saying I just talk about myself?
No, I ask. I'm incredibly curious. And from the moment we met, we were introduced by a dear mutual friend, Filippo, in Qatar.
Yep.
We're at breakfast.
Another fabulously interesting guy.
Interesting guy. And I remember that day, I had asked you how your morning was going so far. I think it was 9 or 10 a.m. And you had already explored parts of Doha first thing in the morning, which is something about you. You like to just stay busy at all times.
Yeah.
And it's very cool. I mean,
I'd say that's a problem.
No, it's not a problem. It's cool. That's how you're able to build the incredible...
Or a sickness, maybe, an addiction, work addiction, yeah.
Maybe. But it's how you're able to become who you are today. You're an incredible founder, father, and friend. You founded Company 3, which is the largest color grading post-production business in the world.
Correct.
You are known to be the Da Vinci of color grading, and you've worked on incredible movies and projects like Jurassic Park, Star Wars, Star Trek, Transformers. You've worked on now the new F1 film. You've worked on the TV show of my favorite movie, the new Dune series.
Yeah,
Superman. You've really touched a lot of what's top of the top out there.
Yeah.
And it's really incredible.
Around the world with your host, the Gstaad Guy. We welcome you back to the Gstaad Guy podcast, sharing stories of excellence with those in the know for those who just know.
I know you like to downplay some of the amazing things you've done. I hope we do less of that today, just so I can really get to the crux of those things. And your path to build what you've built is definitely unconventional. And you are an active police officer.
Correct, sheriff.
Sheriff.
Yeah, big distinction.
Okay.
If you work in LA.
I'd love to start there.
Okay.
How did you end up a police officer, and why?
So, yeah, it's an interesting story, to say the least. When I first started the company, I am superstitious. And I said to myself and my wife at the time, Missy, Papa George, who helped start the company, actually, I said I wouldn't cut my hair until I was successful. So I ended up years later with really long hair. And I literally looked like a homeless guy with super long hair, in sweats, getting thrown out of restaurants. And I remember pretty clearly I was working on a public service announcement, actually, for a suspicious activity reporting system, which was called iWatch, which is now all over the world. It's like one of the preeminent suspicious activity reporting systems for terrorism and stuff like that. And so I helped these guys for free to do this. A director friend of mine was doing this commercial public service for this like I said, this suspicious activity reporting system. And so as I got more involved, I started to meet more people who were involved. And it was like a multi-agency sort of program where they had the FBI and the LAPD and the sheriff and ICE and all these different, departments and organizations that were helping to deal with terrorism at the time. So as I got more involved, they realized that I was actually pretty knowledgeable about the entertainment world, and sort of the biggest source of illicit funding for organized crime and terrorism at the time was intellectual property piracy.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, that meant DVDs, movies, pirated films and TV shows. And so this collection of different departments asked me to start doing work with them, which led to undercover work, because I was so knowledgeable. I had long hair, and looked like a homeless guy and definitely didn't look like a police officer. And so I started to do undercover work with this really quite infamous group at the Los Angeles Police Department, the anti-piracy group led by this friend of mine, and mentor, Rick Ishitani.
This is when? How many years ago?
This is at least probably 16, 17 years ago. And I met a bunch of the people that I know now, like Mark Steinberg, who's the chief of Beverly Hills Police, and anyway, all these different people. And so I started to do that work. And as I did that work, it started to become more involved and got to be more dangerous because we're dealing with different, kinds of people. So I used my expertise, and then as it got more dangerous, the chief of police at the time got a little upset that they were involving a civilian to do this anti-piracy work. Yep. So we sort of all got our hands slapped a little bit, and they just suggested that I join a reserve program. And in LA especially, it's kind of weird, but they have very few of these programs in the country, and LA is a very robust program for the LAPD and the Sheriff's Department. So I applied, not really knowing what was going on. I just said, yeah, sure, whatever, I'm working a lot, and I just figured I could deal with anything. And turns out it's like the same process as a regular police officer. You have to go through all the background checks, which takes about a year. And at my age at the time, wow. I was, I had a stack of like where I lived, 20 different places and all around the world, and knew all these different people. So they sort of branch out and evaluate everything in your life. You get through that process, and then you get to go to the academy, which is like a stress academy. It's a really rigorous, difficult program. Sort of akin to Full Metal Jacket, that movie, if you remember that, but a little less than that, but pretty close to that. So I ended up being accepted to the Sheriff's Department, the LA County Sheriff's Department's academy. And I had to go through a year of a police academy while I was working. Actually, I was working on Pirates 4 at the time,
Pirates of the
Transformers, and working my ass off, 12, 15 hours a day, and going 40 hours a week to the academy.
Wow.
At the same time, unbeknownst to anybody, because I didn't really publicize this, obviously, and at the time, I thought people would really get unnerved by it, especially, how people look at law enforcement. So, I went through the program, and, it was incredibly difficult and incredibly actually rewarding in the sense that it pushed me to it's a stress academy, so every week they test you on things that can disqualify you from the program. So it's very stressful, a lot of work, 29 different academic disciplines and subjects, and firearms, and force training, and all sorts of things, driving. So once I got through that, it really was incredibly useful to help me multitask, I think, and work under pressure. Not that I couldn't do that before, but I found that it really sort of reduced my stress load when I was doing stuff like that. And I really used it in everyday life to this day too. And one of the good things about it too is it got me in really good shape. Even though I was in decent shape, it really, we've talked about this. I'm really big into health and wellness, and it got me onto this path of sustaining, like keeping myself healthy and fit. So that's nice. The whole story.
And how does that look today? Now, 15 years later.
So 15 years later, I went through patrol training and worked with a training officer. You got to get sort of a rite of passage in this industry of law enforcement is getting patrol trained, getting signed off. And now I'm a certified 24-hour peace officer of the state of California, just like any other police officer in this state.
Amazing. And
I go on patrol twice a month. Usually with my training officer, this amazing guy, Frank Espinoza, amazing guy, who's taught me a lot. And it's great because it's almost like meditation for me. You just sort of forget about everything else in your life because you really have to focus on doing what you do. It's a little dangerous, obviously, sometimes too. And you have to be focused and disciplined. And the most important thing for me is 95% of police work is helping people in times of stress. And for me, that's really rewarding. I know it sounds a little cliche, but it really is the best thing for me to be able to help somebody in their time of need, no matter who, whatever type of person or place that you're at. It's always sort of a super rewarding experience. So for me, that's really why I do it. It's not like I'm an adrenaline junkie, or it's really helping people. And again, it's like my way of giving back. Instead of donating money, let's say, I give my time and my service.
Beautiful.
And there have been lots of, obviously terrible events in Los Angeles over the years.
Yeah.
you know, so including fires and
For sure.
different things like that. And you know, but super rewarding and motivating.
Yeah. So why did you start this amazing business you've started, and why color grading as your chosen art form?
I went to college. I went to Boston University, and I was going there for business. I ultimately thought I'd get an MBA and go to business school afterwards. And when I came back, I think after my first year, my mom, who was an actress, by the way, but had nothing to do with this, but I was sort of around that business my whole life. My dad was a doctor, and we'll talk about him. But she insisted that if I came home for summer, that I work. And she wouldn't let me in the house, actually. She's like, you get a job or you're not coming home. It's like, okay. And I was fine with that because I always worked. I was actually a hard worker my whole life. I don't know why, but I just happened to inherit that. And so I just randomly got a job at a post-production facility in Hollywood, actually close to here. And I just started at the bottom driving a car, basically. And it's a pretty classic story. First day on the job, true story, I had to go in this pickup truck to Universal Studios and pick up film dailies for Miami Vice, the TV show. And that's ironic now because I've done all of Michael Mann's films, and he's a good friend of mine, and we're great friends, and he's an amazing director. But that's literally the first day my first day on the job. That's what I saw, and so I picked up the dailies, and on my way back, I got T-boned in a car. Not my fault, thank God, but I got crushed. The whole car was totaled, and I was just like, I wasn't hurt, but I was really freaked out because I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get fired. This daily, I thought it was like the most important thing on the planet to get this film to where it had to go. So I by chance, a friend was driving by, and they're like, Steph, what the f*** going on? What are you doing? Like, what's happened, Steph? What are you doing? And I was like, I can't remember actually who it was. And I was like, dude, gotta help me. Gotta take this film and take it to this place, like right now. It has to get there. It's like the most important thing. He did that. The job happened on time, and I was my manager thought I was pretty quick on my, quick thinker, and did a good job dealing with a pressure situation. So he immediately took me out of driving the next day and put me into this tech room.
Nice. Which
I'd never experienced. And back then it was a little different. There's all kinds of these big tape machines and these 1-inch and 2-inch tape machines that we used to use back then. And it was just this crazy, it was like a NASA control room, it looked like to me. Lights going, things blinking, sounds, all kinds of weird stuff. And it was cool, and I dug it. And I just was given a job, I think in the vault, but on premises, and sort of just started looking at what everybody did. And I sort of fell into coloring, honestly, just by chance. And for some reason, I realized quite early on that I was actually quite good at it. And I picked it up pretty quickly. Yeah. And so I just sort of, as the years progressed, I dropped out of college in year 3, wow. Mainly because I think my dad was just pissed that he was paying so much for the school, and I wasn't going to be a doctor or a lawyer, and I just didn't want to fight with him. So I just was like, and I really wasn't, I wasn't, that serious about the work at school. So I just dropped out, came back to that place and just worked full time. And then kind of did every single job that one can do, learned the business really well. And then, after years of doing that, a few years of doing that, I really just got sick of working for other people, because I always had that sort of inclination or that feeling that I could do it better. And I sort of go, why are they doing it this way? Why don't we do it this way? And this is the wrong way to think about it. And then,
how old were you at this point?
I was in my 20s. Okay. And so as I moved sort of up the ladder, as it were, in a couple of different companies, I kept realizing that I was building their businesses for them. I would say, hey, we should hire this guy, he's pretty cool, or this girl, or we should do this and we should do that, and we should offer this service and we should price it this way. And I was basically creating their business. And at one point in my career, when I'd moved to this place called Pacific Ocean Post on the west side, which was also completely like almost blasphemous to be on the west side as opposed to being in Hollywood, I just went into my boss, the guy who owned the company. I was like, I've been doing this. I know what's going on, and I know I'm billing a lot of money for you. Can I get like a raise? And they were really awful with me. They were just like, nope, just keep your mouth shut and go do your thing. We pay you enough, and you should be happy to work here. And it really, really bothered me a lot. So I think that was the impetus for me, actually, literally that day, saying I just got to start my own company and do this myself. And that's what happened. And so I just felt that there were these four or five key people, Missy being the first person, my ex-wife that I mentioned before, and then hired 10 people and just started this company. Got funding from somebody, and really expensive back then to capitalize companies. Yep. Super expensive. Like I showed you that one machine. That was one machine was $1.2 million. Wow. So we spent, I think, at the time in 1997, $15 million to start the company. Wow. So I obviously didn't have that myself. Yeah. Well, and so I just got somebody to fund it, owned half the company. They put up the money, and I ran it, and it just went crazy from there. I mean, it just snowballed into something crazy. And I think literally, except for COVID, when production actually stopped and the strikes, when everything stopped, I think I've always had growth in the company for 27 years.
Amazing.
So yeah, very fortunate. Specializing in color, but over the years we've branched out into other things. So but you're right. We're basically a color finish house.
Amazing.
And that's what we do. And we're the largest in a bunch of different, places in the world, and we have the best people in the world.
I love it.
I think best service too. So
amazing. I mean, with the level of detail you have with your work for color, I think it goes far beyond just servicing your clients' needs. And there's definitely a level of obsession there that must exist within you and your team for color. And I'd love to talk about what you think color does to a film, because it's one of those things that I actually never even knew was a thing. I thought that the color stopped at the camera. I didn't realize there was an entire art form until I met you, to be honest.
Yeah, no, most people for that matter. And I've said before, and I say it jokingly, that most people hear I'm a colorist and they think I do hair or something like that. and that's like, I always say, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Because that's a good business too. But they just don't know. Nobody knows. Yeah. And remember, there's probably hundreds of us in the world. That's it. Yeah. And a very small few that work on a large majority of the content that's created in this world. So I think color is I call it like this latent tool, this hidden sort of tool, this enigmatic, mysterious sort of art form that was very, very difficult early on to be able to craft, to manipulate, and to do the things that we can do today. Early on, there were much more sort of simplified machines that didn't give you as much versatility as we have today. So back in the day when I was doing more incredible videos for Hype Williams and Paul Hunter and Spike Jonze and Michael Bay and all these different people, Mark Romanek, legendary people, we had to spend we'd spend 3 or 4 days on one job. Oh. It's very different now because there's so many more tools that typically a music video or something like that would take maybe 4 or 5 hours now, as opposed to days. But that's because we have more tools and it's non-linear and there's all sorts of advancements and stuff. But it's this latent sort of, like I said, sort of hidden quality that, if done right, I think evokes all kinds of different emotions and feelings and storytelling through color. And when I work with Michael Mann, for instance, is a perfect example. Michael Mann doesn't color with me and say, most of the time he doesn't say brighter, darker, warmer, cooler. He says, this actor, or Al is like in Heat, for instance. I did Heat with him, or Ferrari that I just finished with him. He'll say, this whoever the actor is, he's feeling this at this current time, and this is what he just experienced, and this is what he will experience. So I want him to feel this. So this is how I want this scene to connect with people, and then I have to interpret that into color, if you can imagine. And because we understand each other, or I understand him, we work so well together. And a lot of that is why people don't change over the years, because it's really impossible to find somebody who you creatively connect with on a consistent basis, who can interpret that and bring it to life on screen. And then other times people will say, I need something unique that nobody's ever done, which happens all the time. And how do you do that? And how can you help? And so you sit with the DP and the director and the producers and the creators, and you create this wonderful experience for people to view. And I think it's not really that noticeable at times unless it's done wrong. Yeah. And now that you've sort of know that, you'll start to pay attention a little more. Sure. And you'll start to maybe see that, oh, Stefan's name's on that. Now I sort of see his sort of style a little bit. And then you'll see somebody else's that you maybe like or don't like because of whatever the feeling is that it evokes in you or brings out in you. And it's amazing how powerful it is. Yeah. And it's easy to illustrate, but again, people just don't think about it. And everything that is on any screen really needs manipulation. I mean, we do it on our, Instagrams, it's like, so it's just, we have these huge projects with robust, you need robust infrastructures and security and all that sort of stuff to be able to manipulate these high resolution images and manage and move and monetize it, through the pipeline. And it's a really interesting sort of business that, again, most people don't even know it exists. That's why we're like at the bottom of the credit list. Like you have to wait till the very last credit. I remember my daughter once, I was doing Michael Bay's a horror film, Amityville Horror maybe. I think it was that movie. And there's this crazy fly scene. Yeah. And there's like the fly wrangler literally is listed way above me. And my daughter saw the movie and she's like, Dad, why does the fly wrangler get a better credit than you? And I was like, I don't know. Let's talk to Michael about that, who's been super supportive. And people like Michael, Tony Scott, Ridley Scott, Michael Mann, JJ, and then the whole host of DPs who were always coming from the music video / commercial world where they manipulated things so extensively, weren't able to do that in feature films because the process didn't exist. So we were, I'd like to say that Company 3 was a pioneer in that, developing that process that enabled you to manipulate and basically do anything you want in the feature film world and then make prints from that. And now you don't make prints anymore, but you have digital projection. So for instance, 300, one of my favorite films, Zack Snyder, total visionary visually. He's one of my great friends. I've done everything he's ever done, pretty much. He saw that and wanted to bring that movie to life. And 300 wouldn't be 300 unless it had that insanely specific look, right? And grain and all the stuff that and so obviously his filmmaking too, but the look of it was a big part of it too. And couldn't do that before, Michael Bay is always visually stunning with his look and color. So those guys really pushed for the studios to make that happen too, which really helped accelerate our growth too. Because once people caught on to that, everybody in the world wanted to do that, and everybody wanted to work at Company 3 too, because we were really our color science, which is all that sort of incredible artistry meets math and technology. Our secret sauce, I guess, if you will, is that's core of our business too. And we have all these amazing colorists, Tom Poole and Jill Bogdanovich and Stefan Nakamura and Tim Masick and all these mavericks who were just Dave Hussey, all these mavericks who were just at the beginning doing all this great work. Sure. That's like just that group that I mentioned does. I'd say just that group does like 50% of the big films that you see. So it's just amazing that we were able to come up with, workflows from a production and technology perspective with incredible people at the company that all played a part in making this happen. And it's not just the artistry too, it's the technology and it's the systems. It's the design of the rooms, like I showed you when you came by. Like ergonomically, everything's set in a specific spot, because when you work 16 hours a day, like you all know, you got to be comfortable. Your neck can't cramp, and you can't get a headache because you're not situated properly, and you're looking at the wrong angle, and you know, it's all very different, 100 different variables. And every studio for us around the world, you kind of have that same experience because we build them similarly, and we have the unique service across the group too.
Yeah.
So wherever you are, hopefully you get that same company 3 experience, also coupled with the great artistry, with all the great women and men that we have working for us.
I love that.
So
I am a massive admirer of all the work you've done and all the movies you've worked on, but also you have worked with my favorite company, which I happen to be an ex-employee of.
Yes.
Apple.
Yes.
And you had the pleasure of working with Steve Jobs.
Yes.
And doing the post-production for all of the video content and product announcements they did for 20 years.
Yeah. A lot of, since the iPod, I think, is the first advertising, over 20 years, actually.
Wow. And that's including the first iPod ad with the colors flashing of the person
Silhouette,
dancing in the shadow.
Correct. I think Dave Myers did the test and Mark Romanek did the first spot. Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, I'd love to know more about your work with Apple, because that's very different to, I assume, work on a big Hollywood film.
Yeah, Apple was very unique. Steve was very unique. And the people around him were very unique. And the agency, and Lee Cloud, Chai Day, which now has an agency named Mal that does specifically Apple work. Again, Mavericks, we were doing incredibly specific work, huge volume of work. Steve was adamant that everything was real. Like, he didn't want to manipulate with visual effects at all. So everything was photoreal. So they photographed, even with the phone, the screens were real, as opposed to Samsung that was comping visually affected screens back into the phone, so they look better. So Steve wanted everything done for real. He wanted every frame of film colored perfectly. Obviously, he's a meticulous guy with everything, an incredibly artistic guy, an incredibly tough guy. And we all spent so much time but doing this incredible work that we were super proud of. And it was really like such an amazing, I got to do the spot for Ridley, the 1984 spot, that famous spot that's in the museum. We remastered that in 4K and made it just even more incredible than it was originally. And all those spots. And I remember going to a Pirates of the Caribbean screening that my friend Gorbert Verbinski, who's another amazing visionary guy, good friend, he had this amazing huge screening at premiere at Disneyland. So we had this unique projection system right where that riverboat is in Disneyland in LA, Anaheim. And I'll never forget, it was, I was there checking the image to make sure it looked good. And I saw this guy, one guy, sitting in the stands that we had set up, all these bleachers, and he was like this. Like, literally, I was like, what who the is that? What's going on? And I got a little closer, and I was like, oh my God, it's Steve Jobs. And I was like, oh my God, he's got the iPhone. And nobody had ever seen the iPhone, because I knew, because I was working on it. We always did these, secret double black, and I remember seeing him, and it was such a wild experience, because it's like craziest thing in the world, but that was like the first iPhone.
And he was hiding it.
And he's hiding it so nobody would see it, but he was working on it, and it was in its testing phase, and then we went through these crazy amounts of spots to roll it out. And
so you've seen a lot of the products before they would go live.
All the product, yeah. Oh. And now we do a lot of the keynotes, and all the keynotes actually, and a lot of those making of films that you see on the website, and the photoreal CG, like the watch. Before it even existed, we were doing photoreal imagery for the watch, the iWatch, and
and now you're working on some of their films, like F1.
And now they've got into content, and they've been amazing. And we've done we do Severance with Ben Stiller, and Tom Poole does that, our chief creative officer, and that's the #1 show on Apple.
Amazing.
I'm doing F1 right now with Joe Kosinski, another incredible director. I did Top Gun with him, and a bunch of commercials and some other films. He's a visionary, amazing guy. Tom Cruise is incredible too. Done a bunch of his movies, and he's amazing. I mean, he's in every aspect of everything. He gets deep into it. And I think the first time he ever sat in a color room was with me and JJ on Mission Impossible.
Wow.
And to his credit, you know, he realized immediately what you could do in there, and he never left.
Wow.
Like everybody was like, "Oh, we got to come back at midnight to do the." I'll never forget. We're delivering the movie, and we had a big chunk of visual effects. I think it was Mission Impossible 3, the first JJ film, and he. Everybody's like, they're going to come in at like 1, the delivery, and everybody's like, you know what to do, Steph, you can do it. And everybody was like, yeah, it's too late, I'm not going to come. And Tom's like, I'll be there. And he showed up, and we worked throughout the night. And I'll never forget, we walked outside, and we did a lot of work in Japan too, in Tokyo. I used to have a company 3 in Tokyo as well for like a decade, and the time difference is obviously very different. But when we came out at like 1 or 2 in the morning to take a break outside, there was like 15 Japanese people doing a job with us virtually in Japan, and they saw Tom Cruise.
Wow.
And I'll never forget, he was so generous and so nice, and he talked to every one of them and signed autographs, but he realized the power of, and he's in every movie I've done since with him, and other actors too, for that matter, they get it. So they're there, and they're in there every single day. Bradley Cooper is in every session and is meticulous about color, especially. I mean, he talks about it. He's amazingly generous with his, he's an amazing guy and a good friend and great filmmaker. John Krasinski, same thing, amazing filmmaker. I mean, these guys just are embedded in what they do, and, you know, from acting, producing, directing, and also visual effects and color. It's such a large part of it.
This podcast is brought to you by Poubelle by the Gstaad Guy, bringing you charms hand-painted with enamel on 925 sterling silver, allowing you to express all the things you love and all the things you might question, from Riva bateaus to backgammon boards and caviar tins to paddle rackets. There is a Poubelle charm or completed set for everyone in the know. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy the podcast.
I mean, all these people, similar to you, have this deep love for their craft and a deep love for everything that's kind of craft adjacent that takes them to the final product they want to achieve. And I think you can think about that when it comes to a project, but also when it comes to an entire life and your project being what your life is today. And you are someone that, from the moment I met you, I realized that you are very careful about the way you've crafted the life you lead, with your, what seems, to me at least, an incredibly balanced life, where you love your athleticism, you love your routine, you love your police work and your work of philanthropy, and the amazing work you do with your business. I'd love to learn more about how you balance all those things and about the choices that you've made to get you to.
Yeah. As have you, my friend.
Well,
like you curate well, and you work all the time too, and you're always on, and it's even harder for you because you walk outside and everybody, like, you know, wants a piece of you, and it's really tricky actually. That fortunately for me, I'm very lucky because we're behind the camera and we don't have that, which is great, because I don't know how you guys deal with that. But
not even a tiny piece of what you've done, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
I think in general, to be the best at anything, you have to sacrifice a lot, and that means sacrificing every day and living and breathing, doing what like you do, like I've seen you do too, which is also impressive. But it's really like the people that you're gonna have on the show, and the people who are typically successful are those people who are driven, and not just driven, but incredibly motivated and driven, and stay driven, and understand what it takes to be at the top, or whatever, be successful if you measure it that way, and stay there. And so to do that, again, part of the academy taught me to be even better at this, but it's multitasking and also prioritizing and sacrificing. And any good athlete doesn't mess around with their sleep. Any good athlete that doesn't mess around with their diet and exercise. And it's the same sort of thing. There are these 4 pillars. There's stress, there's nutrition, there's exercise, and sleep. And if you figure out how to work that into your schedule and not sacrifice too much of any of those things so that you can accomplish what you need to every single day, every hour, and every day in and day out, year after year, I think that's the only way to get there and do that. And I think it's really hard, but also I think it's really, for me, it's really fun and enjoyable, and I really like to challenge myself. My parents actually unfortunately had some terrible medical problems. My mom had terrible Alzheimer's early, and my dad had terrible heart disease. So I've been exposed to that. So I sort of early on chose to try to be, healthier with everything that I did. But as everybody realizes, time is precious, and we don't have that much of it. And so I try to balance. One thing I would say that I would do differently if I could is rebalance working so much initially and sacrificing some of my family time. So that's the only thing I sort of regret about it. But other than that, I don't, because I feel that I get a lot of people saying how inspirational sort of my behavior is. And I don't do it for that at all. I just am that person because I love. Every day I walk into my place, I think I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I look at the building that you saw, one of them, and I can't believe I get to work here. And I can't believe I get to sit next to Joe doing Formula One with Claudio, the DP, and Jerry Bruckheimer. I've done so many of his films for decades. And sit with these guys and create these incredible movies that are what we love about entertainment. Content's incredible. It takes you to another place. And that's also, F1's one of my favorite sports. So Star Wars, when I got to do Star Wars, when I got to do Mission, I love spy stuff. All these different genres that I get to work in that sort of feed this fantasy of mine of immersing myself in that world and being part of that. And that's just like the best thing about the business. It's incredible. And trying to expose that to people, since I never got help when I was young. Like, everybody was always pushing me, like, especially the establishment. They were like, you gotta take this kid down, and who is this young guy who thinks he knows what he's doing? We're gonna make it super hard for him and try and get everything away from him. It wasn't like it is today. There's more opportunities, I think, for people and a different type of culture around that. But it was really tricky. So I love the fact that we're able to also speak at universities and high schools and
for sure,
and mentor people and intern people and all that sort of thing, and help this new generation. That's still quite, they lack a lot of knowledge about what the business is, especially what we do in post-production. I mean, there are Academy Awards for visual effects now. There has been for a while, but nothing for color. Like I said, most people don't even know about it, even in the academy.
It's amazing.
So it's a balance, and you got to do it. And like you said, when we travel, and seeing you in Doha a couple of times we have, and the you travel like crazy. It's amazing, and it's a really stressful thing. I don't know if people realize it. It seems
it is tiring at times for sure, but the same way with you, when you look at your office, whenever I find myself just about to complain, I remember that it's actually a choice, and I know the alternative. I can walk away. No one's forcing me to work hard except for myself. And the same with you. Like, we can slow down if we'd like to, and we have chosen this life. So someone recently, I heard them say, don't pray for the rain if you can't handle the mud. So I'm tired on a flight. I prayed to be on that flight.
And I never ever take anything for granted, and I'm super happy that there's work and that I have a company that with a lot of amazing people. For sure. So I agree with that.
So you are a unique founder and CEO, where you love the craft so much and you get your hands dirty so often with the work that you do, color grading and working on the productions yourself, but also managing thousands of people as a CEO, which are often contradictory. What's that like?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question. I get that quite a bit. And I'll say, like, I've never not done that, which is interesting. So from day one, you start a company, you're a founder, you come up with a business plan, but then you're also that artist that's working day in and day out. So I always say this, and I don't mean to denigrate in any way, but I don't know what a CEO in my business even does for the full day, besides golfing and doing all those sort of things that, may be necessary at sometimes, but I really just don't get it, because I can do both, and I think it's absolutely 1,000% necessary to do both. Not necessarily just in any business, but in this business, my creative service business, you have to be, because you have to be on the ground. You have to be in the trenches. You have to experience all the problems that anybody would have, any of your employees would have, and any of your clients might have. You have to understand the workflows and both production, technology, and creative workflows that affect everything that you do. You have to understand the deliveries, mechanisms, and how these huge files, a lot of the times get to the clients. And then you have to make a business out of it. And, with all, we've had horrible 3 force majeure events back to back: COVID, strikes, and then the fires. Unprecedented, crazy. 2/3 of our competition is bankrupt right now. It's a really difficult time. But I think I use the analogy of, like, it's akin to like a sports player, like who then becomes a coach. But recent sports player like JJ Redick is a good example. He just stopped playing and now he's coaching the Lakers. It's amazing, huge, Luka and LeBron, and here's this pretty younger, inexperienced first-time coach, but he was an amazing player, smart guy. And I think that's the only way to do it. And you have to live and breathe it. And I'm very fortunate. Like I said, I was originally in business school, so I think I had that part of it. I never thought I had an artistic bone in my body, like literally. Shocked every day that I go in a room and I'm like, do, and people like what I do. So I'm very fortunate to have that. But again, it goes hand in hand. And I can't tell you, I mean, every employee mentions that seeing me at the office every day, seeing how much work I do, seeing me first in, first last out, seeing me talk and help people and mentor people, always having 1 or 2 people alongside me when I'm coloring movies. If you notice, I have multiple other people have like additional colorist credits with me because I'm helping them build their reels and their training. It's all of that is imperative to have a successful company, in my opinion. And I don't know how to do it any other way. Plus, people think it's like so much work. I don't look at work as work. I don't. I go home and let's say it's Saturday and I'm at Disneyland with my kid and I get a call. Besides being present, obviously you have to be present with your kids. That doesn't bother me. Nothing bothers me like that. That's just business. And I don't look at it and separate it. It's my life. It's a company I started. It's like one of my kids. It's like my 6th child, or my first child, actually. Second child, because I had 2 before the company. So 3rd child. But it's that's how I see it. And I couldn't do it any other way. And I don't know how other people don't. And I think that's how some of the companies outside of our company got in trouble. They had these people who think they know these formulaic sort of, playbooks that you learn in school or business school or whatever. And yeah, those are important. But I learned that through experience. I've worked with 2 eccentric billionaires as owners of my company until we bought the company back recently, 4 years ago. And so I've had that experience like on-site experience and lived and breathed that and learned along the way. So
I can imagine.
That's how I see it.
I mean, I'm deeply curious about people who have this obsession with their craft, and that comes first, from an artist to a chef, and anyone who strives for excellence in everything they touch, which really is part of being an artist when you're optimizing for the artwork. But part of being a founder and part of being a CEO is optimization, which goes against everything an artist works towards, and something really challenging that scale of optimization and art form is something like AI, and it's kind of questioning the ethics on both sides, where the CEO probably loves AI because it's can be a great way to make a process more efficient and reduce costs, whereas someone who is married to the art and has an incredible passion for the art may think it's a bad thing. So since you're wearing both of those hats, is there an internal dialogue happening in your mind?
Yeah, it's a great point, because you do anything and everything for the client and the job and the artistry. But you can do that and have a successful business if you do it properly, which we learn to do along the way. And a lot of people have helped with that. It's not just me. There's a lot of our great teams that help along the way. It's a really great point. AI for us is, again, I've said it many times that the AI to me really obliterates mediocrity. That's what it does, not the nuanced high-level creativity that we're in the business of. So I use it now. We have wonderful AI group at our company, and we use it to be more efficient, for sure. Will it replace a handful of jobs? Yeah, for sure. But that's just a small, tiny fraction of it. And those are the repetitive, like I said, just mundane tasks that, unfortunately, those things, they help the business run, but they don't really affect the creative sort of aspect of it at all. So I think it's both. It's super helpful, again, and I embrace it, and that's why we have people working on stuff. But again, that dynamic is sometimes you struggle with it, but I've learned to work it out. I think you can achieve both, and that's why the company's still around, I think, because we've been able to do that.
For sure.
But it's definitely a thing that we come up against quite often.
I mean, all these new technologies end up putting some people out of business and also putting a lot of people in business. And I feel that every day, when I was so lucky with timing. If I was a few years off with Gstaad Guy, my frown wouldn't be paying my bills, you know? And I wouldn't have had the scale and the partnerships I have and been able to start the businesses I've started and talk about them. So I feel blessed to be born in the era I've been born in. But in the same way, when you were showing me around your offices, you showed me this massive antiquated machine, which is far less powerful than our iPhones today. Do you feel like you would have been better off having started Company 3 10, 20 years later than you did? So
I think luck favors those who are well prepared. You know, it's a kind of famous saying, and I really do believe that. But no, because I started the company timing-wise, which is there are books on that. The Luck Factor is a kind of an interesting book on that deals with this. But no, I think we did it at the perfect time. It was just during that inflection point of traditional lab technology into digital technology that was just in its infancy. And I was able then to come and manipulate what was available to us to a point that nobody else could see. We were way ahead of the competition. There was no competition initially. I had grown up in Europe too. I don't think we even talked about that. I went at 12 years old. I went to a boarding school in Greece. My mom didn't want me to grow up as like a California surfer dude. And she was like, you need to, we always went to Greece every 3 months for summer. as kids, but we actually, my brother and I went to boarding school. I was 12, he was 14. And being exposed to all the different cultures, and we traveled a lot. We played sports, so we were in every country, even to Cairo, all over the place, doing the American community schools, ACS, yeah. I'm sorry?
ISSTs are like the sports.
Yeah. And so we had that ability to experience so much and use that experience in my art form, and collaborate with a lot of European people in the business. A lot of the folks that were in my business are from Europe. And so I was able to exploit that. I don't know if this is the right word, but it's into an advantage. And we just, again, it was perfect timing. Steve Jobs just starting to advertise, huge benefit to our company. All of these, like, again, that book talks about it. And being in these certain cycles of life are actually just, incredibly helpful, like you said, for yourself too. You told me your story, and it was amazing. It's exactly the same thing. Incredible how you did it. So I am happy that we did this. I'm not happy about these 3 force majeure events that just happened, and it's really been a difficult time for our business in general. But we're seeing it come back now, and it will. Like, everybody loves. I love watching TV, movies. I love content. I love your content. I love anything really that's out there. And so I don't think it's more screen agnostic than it's been, which is fine too, because we don't care what the screen is. We just manipulate that content. So yeah, I'm actually glad. I also don't think it would have been right, timing wise, because of where I am today, it's opened up all these opportunities, which is how we met.
Yeah.
And if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't be the company of choice potentially. So again, the more I look at it, actually, the more I'm happy that I don't necessarily like being older, but I do like that I was in the right place at the right time.
Sure.
And was able to capitalize on that.
There's one thing I'd love to touch on that we haven't.
Yeah.
And it's the longevity and biohacking.
Yeah.
That is a growing trend amongst a lot of my friends.
Yeah.
And it's super cool. And you were really into it. And I would love to know about your perspective on health optimization and how it's going to change.
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in, especially because of my parents that I mentioned before, the health crises that they went through. I'm a big believer in just optimizing health so that my life is better while I'm around. Mm-hmm. And it's not so much living longer. That's not what I'm necessarily trying to do. Mm-hmm. But I just want to be the way I am now. I think I'm in the best shape of my life actually now than I've ever been. Yeah. And I think I've achieved that through a lot of reading, a lot of studying, a lot of listening, and a lot of trial and error. And what I've done now is more simplified than, like George actually, like I said, Clooney got me into it by introducing me to this woman who then just opened the door to all sorts of things that I didn't know about, and then suggested reading, and so I just sort of expanded on that.
So what's your percentage split of investment? Is it of time, effort, financial?
It's quite a strict regimen of food, diet. Mm-hmm. I take not a crazy amount of supplements. There was a time where I followed Brian Johnson, the Don't Die guy, and I was in that cohort that for 3 months that used his exact regimen, which was hugely. It was a lot of stuff. I mean, like 80, 90 different supplements and things every day. And I actually didn't feel great on that. And I think it's more unique to him and his own sort of body and how he works. And it doesn't work for everybody. So it wasn't so much that I felt bad. I didn't think that it optimized me. So I sort of took good things from that and good things from other things and put my own regimen together so I have sort of a breakfast routine, very specific amount of protein, a lot of protein, a small amount of carbs and fat. And I take some supplements at night too. I do take, cycle through some peptides, which are sort of things amino acids that just optimize your own body's production of certain things for health and wellness, for immunity, for muscle health, for mitochondria health, for, again, various different things. And they're just sort of little ways to optimize your body. And I think they work pretty well, especially the ones that I've chosen to take on a regular basis. And like I said, I think the most important thing on the planet that I've learned to do is sleep properly. And I sleep more deeply by a factor of 2 to 3 times now than I used to. Yeah, and for REM too.
Wow,
it's a lot, and I'm not exaggerating. So, on average, I'm getting 7 hours of sleep. That's pretty good for me. And
what time do you go to bed usually?
I go to bed at between 9:30 and 10:30.
Wow.
Every day. When I travel, I immediately get onto that, the time zone of where I'm going quickly. Yep. So if I'm going to Qatar or the Middle East, I have to, go to sleep at 4 p.m. when I leave Los Angeles, and, try to sleep for 4 or 5 hours and get on the time schedule. I have, I don't take any sleep aids. So I have sort of like some magnesium, some GABA, some, cortisol, stuff that sort of just relaxes your mind a little bit. It's not a sleeping aid. It's not habit forming. It's natural stuff. Nothing excessive, but it works so that I can put my head down. I always fell asleep quickly, always.
Then what's your morning routine like?
And then I cold plunge 4 to 5 times a week in the morning.
Oh, what time is that?
I wake up, take some stuff, like some supplements and some ketone aid or something.
And this is at 5 in the morning?
Like 6.
6.
And then I work out with weights pretty hard for 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. I do cardio, which is walking on a treadmill, on an incline, running, or I always play basketball for 2 hours on Saturday, really hard. Like it's 1,300 calories, it's like a zone 4, zone 5 for most of the time, for an hour and a half at least. I love sauna. I do a dry sauna 4 or 5 times a week, which I love, and usually do a plunge after that, maybe an hour or 2 before bed. There's so much data on how sauna helps, with all-cause mortality, that it's just so silly not to do it. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just like the easiest thing in the world to do, and it's actually quite enjoyable and relaxing. So, so there's the things that are easy to do that just are, you have to be disciplined. The hardest thing is to slow your mind down, calm down at night, and put your head down and go to sleep. I can't tell you how many times I go to sleep at 10. I'm like, I'm never going to go to sleep. And 3 minutes later on my ring, I've like, latency is like 5 minutes, which means it only took me 5 minutes to go to sleep. So I can sleep on the floor anywhere. I'm a good sleeper. So I'm lucky in that sense. But I never slept well once I started measuring. That's what's so interesting. I don't drink, which screws up your sleep 100% of the time. Yeah. I mean, I'll have a non-alcoholic beer or a glass of wine once in a while, but that's it. Because 100% of the time your sleep's ruined. Mm-hmm. And you try to stop eating. I stop eating. I eat dinner usually at like 5:30 max. Try 4:30.
Wow.
So I have a sort of small 8-hour window to eat all those 180 grams of protein. And that's it. And you try to do it, and your body likes consistency. So when you do it consistently, it rewards you.
Amazing.
And I wake up in the morning feeling like $1 million, and it's just the best feeling in the world. So good. I guess that's the drug, right? It is. So and if I go to London or I go to anywhere, and it's 8 to 11 hour time difference, to barely have jet lag and be able to function properly is an incredible feeling. For sure. And to me, worth the time and effort that you have to put into it, because otherwise you're just miserable.
For sure.
And it's hard to work properly. Yeah. So that's my health and wellness, sleep being the most critical thing ever. And then, stress is hard. It's hard to mitigate stress, but I try not to get too worked up over things.
You seem very, very zen in general.
Yeah, I'm better than I used to be.
Okay, good. Good. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm super excited to continue to see all the amazing work you do. Particularly next up is F1.
F1's an amazing movie. Can't wait.
I can't wait to see it. I continue to watch your old projects without realizing that.
Just stay late for the credits.
Exactly.
Like, go to the end.
You'll
see them go like this on TV, like that.
Exactly.
And then it's and thank you for having me. I'm really impressed with you too, and I love what you're doing. You really. It's funny because when I listen to any one of your posts, there's always so much relevant stuff that I'm sure you hear it from everybody that you think or you want to say or you can't say or you don't know how to say, and it's very relevant to so many different things. So it's great that you're doing that, and
appreciate it.
I don't know how you do that. It seems like you have consistently very, very poignant stuff. So
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Gstaad Guy podcast. If you're keen to learn more, please follow along by engaging with our social channels on Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Merci beaucoup, à la prochaine, and a big hug from the Gstaad Guy.